Hey there, I'm Amber Hudgins. I just want to introduce myself before I get started. I'm a pharmacist here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So I completed a PGY1 here at Novant Health and stayed on, and I support our rheumatology clinic and our MTM services here at Winston-Salem. Kind of with my job, it's important for me to stay up to date on new studies and new information when it comes to the wild world of rheumatology. So today I'm just going to be reviewing a abstract that was presented out at ACR 2022 and just kind of dive in some interesting information that came from this abstract. Really kind of background here is trying to determine any relevant differences between our drugs in the IL-23 class. So looking at different drugs and how we can kind of differentiate what could be more useful to using certain drugs to target specific interleukins. So here specifically, we're looking at the differences in therapeutic profiles across the domains for patients with psoriatic disease. Really diving in and looking at our IL-23, so Guselkumab and Risankizumab, which I'll be referring to as Gus and Riz for the remainder of this discussion. And really, by doing this, the methods of this abstract, they wanted to look at potential mechanisms and see if there were anything specifically in these therapeutic profiles when looking at the differences of these molecules. So Gus is a fully humanized IgG1 specific for IL-23, and this actually has a native fragment crystallizable FC region. Compared to Riz, which is a humanized anti-IL-23 IgG1 that has a mutated FC region. So really comparing the binding and the functional characteristics of those molecules to see if there was a difference. So the results, they looked at Gus and Riz, and they actually displayed comparable picomolar affinities for the binding of IL-23. And they did this by looking at kinetic exclusion assay, which is basically just this really cool way of coming up with filtered samples and running it through in the lab to see, with the drugs added in and specific receptor sites, being able to pinpoint specific binding affinities and binding locations. So by doing so, they ran both Riz and Gus, and they were able to see that the cells specifically to Gus showed a strongest affinity to the cluster of CD64, where Riz showed negligible binding to that specific site. So that's really one area they're able to differentiate between the two in this class. They also looked at interferon gamma primed human monocytes, and the ones that were labeled Gus actually showed dose-dependent binding to that CD64 as well, looking at flow cytometry. Where Riz did not. So Gus binding to that CD64 monocytes did not trigger activation as shown by lack of cytokine or chemokine production, but it is important that the CD64 bound Gus was able to bind the IL-23 as well. So in conclusion, just comparing Riz and Gus, they both were studied. We're able to determine that Gus uniquely binded to that CD64 myeloid cell and also to IL-23. These areas are enriched in psoriatic skin and serve as a dominant IL-23 source. So when taken together, Gus presence may be enriched within that inflamed tissue by binding to the CD64 and neutralizing the IL-23 as a cellular source. So it's potential to have a more durable response and have more therapeutic benefit there within the class. Of course, further studies are needed to kind of generate additional evidence supporting this hypothesis, but this is a great start to kind of show the differentiation between the two molecules in this class.